PY, or you're going to go buy VTI, or whatever you're going to go buy. But it's actually going to be helpful when you buy the investments. So I think that's really important. Okay. The housing market is slow. How do I keep getting conflicting advice about buying now and stretching our budget, dipping into emergency savings for a good down payment, or just waiting for our dream. Here's my thing when it comes to buying a home. First and foremost, I want you to ask yourself why you would actually want to buy a home. Because I feel like a lot of people want to buy homes just because they want to tell people they bought one. And I don't think that's fair. I think you should, if you really want a home, I think that is powerful. But if you're not sure that you actually want one, there's no need to get one. You can continue renting, and that may actually be the better financial option. That said, if you are renting, the money you quote unquote save by renting versus buying, you should be investing, because you can't just have that money and like put it towards like a new fancy car, right? Like you actually want to be investing that money. As for if you should stretch your budget now and get a good down payment and like buy like kind of like a medium home, or like just wait for your dream home. Something that people struggle with is that they'll wait until they have enough money for a 20% down payment, which by the way, you do not need 20%. You can put much less down. But also, I think if you go and you put all this money aside and then you're like, okay, I'm going to wait until I get my dream home, that day may never come, because you might get priced out of the market entirely. And I think that's really, really scary and frustrating. So I would say focus on your current financial goals. If you are really dying to have a home, it may be okay to have a starter home. I am someone who definitely bought a place in New York City and frankly grew out of it relatively quickly. Now that, my husband and I are thinking about potentially expanding our family, I'm like, oh, all of a sudden this place that was 2-bedroom that felt so large compared to our 1-bedroom apartment beforehand, now it feels, I'm like, man, what if we have 2 kids? That room's not going to be large enough once they're, able to walk. So I just think a little bit about what you actually want over time. That's going to help your financial decision making. Sorry. I would say, additionally, people are asking questions about this book and how it's different versus my first one. First book was all about Finance 101. So how to budget, how to save, how to invest, how to manage your debt, and that builds your financial foundation. But this is really the Build Generational Wealth book. For my folks who are on YouTube and TikTok, just go to richbffbook.com and you can grab a copy. If you're on Instagram, you can just type the title Well Endowed into the chat, and I'll send you a link. But basically, this book focuses on how to use money to your advantage to build the life that you want. So this is all about how do you buy a car or buy a home or buy insurance to protect the things that you love? How do you manage money with a partner on good days to plan that wedding, or on bad days when you're thinking about getting a divorce? How do you set your kids up for financial success without turning them into dirtbags who are so entitled? Because that is, 2 sides of a coin. One side is you want to make sure that your kid has every advantage that you did not have growing up. But on the other hand, you're like, should I, set them up so that they end up being kind of D-bags? No, you don't want that either. How to make them financially successful without giving them everything on a silver platter. And then last but not least, estate planning. So it's all about setting up trusts, wills, power of attorney, healthcare directives, how to make sure that you essentially get whatever you want from the grave, so that people have to abide by your financial decisions because you know best. You worked hard to make that money. You want to make sure that you are the one controlling your destiny. So I think that's really, really powerful. Somebody asked, does this book have anything for single parents? 100%. I think this really, really appeals to all different types of families. I will say a section that I was really, really key about talking about in this book was divorce. And I've seen very few books talk about divorce, just because I think it's so powerful to actually have conversations about like what happens when things don't go perfect the first go around. So I want to see some questions. Ooh, can you do a talk on taxes? I feel like I feel like the middle class trying to grow assets, we get screwed. So I think this is a really, really powerful conversation. I feel like the unlock key here, and people have talked about this before, I can't remember exactly who, but there is such tax power in being your own boss. But there's so many benefit powers to having a boss. And the strongest relationships have one person who works for themselves and one person who works a W-2 job. So in my example of my relationship, my husband has a traditional W-2 job. He gets paid at an employer. He works for a big company. And then I actually own my own business. Through him, I have health insurance, which is great. Health insurance is great. And especially right now when premiums are being jacked sky high, I don't have to worry about that as much because we have private insurance through his company. That said, as a W-2 independent person, like he doesn't have that many ways to do tax write-offs, but I as a business owner do, whether that's the home office deduction, whether that's heavy machinery deduction, whether that's writing off heavy machinery, whether that's uniforms, whether that's travel, whether that's meals that you can write off 50% of. Like there's so many things that you can write off of your income to help lower your tax burden if you own your own business. But owning your own business also comes with a lot of drawbacks. So I would say not to be like, hey, like while you're dating, here's one more thing to be looking for. But like if you have someone who has a W-2 job and you're an independent like 1099 person or vice versa, it will help make one of the stronger financial relationships versus anything else. Someone else asked, are you pro tax return or pro zero tax return? So I actually think the closer you can get your tax return to zero, the better. Because if your tax return, if your tax refund is huge, you get this money and you're like, oh my God, yes, free money. No, that's not free money. That is your money. That is your money that you loaned to the US government for months and months and months for a full calendar year that you could have been doing something with, right? Had that money been in your pocket, you would have been able to invest it. You would have been able to put it, into a high yield savings account if you wanted to have something no risk. You could have been doing something with that money. But when you get it back late, that's unfortunate. When you get a $0 tax refund, or frankly, if you just owe a little bit, it means that you didn't give a free loan. So I'm always very pro get your tax refund or bill close to zero, as close to zero as you possibly can. My friend Jenny just joined. Hi, Jenny. Love you. Yeah, and I'm seeing some comments about how the government is using our money irresponsibly. I'm not going to read exactly out loud what it says, but listen, I think regardless of how you feel about how our government is doing, long pause, I don't think you need to give them an interest-free loan. I just don't think you need to do that. And I do talk about that in my book, Well Endowed, just because there are a lot of other strategies that you could be using to make money with that money that you don't need to be lending it to the government for free. We're not doing that. Like you could literally, if you wanted to loan your own money out, you could do that at certain banks. They let you do that. They let you participate. So I just don't think that's like a strong answer. But like, you don't want them to have that money. Yeah. Somebody said long pause. Yes, Brenna, long pause. But for folks who are just joining us, please check out my book, Well Endowed. All you have to do is go to richbffbook.com to check it out. It comes out February 3rd. I'm begging you, please pre-order it. It helps retailers get it on the shelves, and it really, really shows interest. And that way more stores will be willing to carry it. Somebody did ask a really good question that I wanted to answer. They said advice for furloughed employees. I'm wondering if you guys are specifically talking about the government shutdown. If so, I really recommend you check out something called Civic Match. So Civic Match is a nonprofit that connects federal employees who've been furloughed or laid off or what have you, with local and state governments that are looking to hire. And what's great about that is, one, these days you'll probably have a little bit more job stability. Two, it's still mission-driven work, right? You're going to have great benefits because it is a it's a public job. Realistically, you'll make more money in the private sector, but if you want something that's similar to what you're currently doing, it's a great way to actually get that job. So Civic Match, check it out. I think that's a huge help for furloughed workers. And I really hope that you guys are, doing as well as you can during this time. I'm honestly really, really annoyed. I have some choice words for the folks in charge, because our senators, our representatives are currently being paid during this time for them to bicker and for them to fight. But regular, everyday people who work for the government aren't. People have missed 2 paychecks. I think it's kind of fucked. I hope I don't get in trouble for saying that out loud. They're probably going to ban me for saying that. But people need to feed their kids. They need to keep the roofs over their homes. And I find it very, very problematic that these people who are in very high and mighty positions are getting paid and regular people aren't, because they need to take care of everything at home. And I don't know that many people who can miss 2 paychecks and feel comfortable. Somebody just asked, does this book talk about trusts? Yes, because I am so passionate about trusts. If you want a copy of the book, richbffbook.com, or if you're on Instagram, you can just type Wellendowed in the chat and I'll DM you the link. But richbffbook.com. So let's talk a little bit about trusts. I feel like trusts get a rap that like only rich people can have them or need them. No, trusts are literally just a way for you to get whatever you want. Because it essentially is because somebody did not leave you a trust. You're here listening to me. But you are the person who made the money, right? And then you will have a trustee who will enact your wishes. And then you will have a beneficiary. In this case, let's call it your kid. And your beneficiary, for whatever reason, is going to get this money. But say, knock on wood, God forbid, I pass early. My kid is 15. Me and my husband pass in a tragic accident and they're 15. Do you think a 15-year-old is ready to handle the amount of money that me and my husband were to leave to them? Absolutely not. 15, I couldn't make one good decision when I was 15. I genuinely couldn't. And so I would say a trust really just allows you to dictate exactly what you want to happen. So if I have a trust, I can say, all right, so this amount of money will be given to my child at 18. This amount of money will be given at 21. This amount of money will be given at XYZ age if they have a degree and are gainfully employed. This will be given to them if they ensure that they have a prenup in their relationship. So for example, I'll give you a really fun pop culture example. Shaquille O'Neal, great guy, by the way. I met him. My eyes go to his belly button. He actually has in his trust for his children that they all need to have secondary degrees. So not only do they need to go to college, but they all needed to go on to get masters or MBAs or what have you, for them to access the money he's leaving behind to them. It's a personal choice for him. There was a guy who used to own Denver Broncos, and in his trust, the Broncos would only be like passed down if his kids it would get passed down to whichever kid actually had a degree in sports management and business management. And how hilarious is that? Like he was like, I got to make sure the Broncos are good. Screw my kid, but I got to make sure that my favorite team, continues to be well managed. So the beauty of a trust is it's not just you leaving money behind, it's you leaving money behind specifically. Because I don't want to leave money behind to my kid if my kid's just going to piss it away. I think it's really irresponsible. It actually just sets them up for failure. The same way that you see so many like uber rich kids who don't amount to nearly as much as their parents do. It's because they weren't given the guidance that they needed to. So I think, Wellendowed is really going to teach you all about that. So please check it out, richbffbook.com, or if you're on Instagram, just type Wellendowed into the chat. Okay, now let's talk about oh my God, wait. There are so many. There's so many comments that I want to go through, some really good ones. Ooh, okay. So someone just said a follow-up question to that, which was, I want to set up a trust, but like, is that expensive? How much would it set it up? Essentially, could the majority of people actually afford that? So here's my take. They're not cheap, but you can make it cheaper. What I like to say is your financial scenario is not that unique, right? Like even if you're very, very well-to-do, if you're rich, like your situation is probably not that unique. You're leaving behind some cash, some investments, some property, maybe, right? Don't you think someone in the history of Everdom has ever tried to leave back some cash, some assets, and some property? These days, with any sort of legal documentation, any sort of entity setup, what have you, for the most part, you can find pretty solid guidance and boilerplate stuff on like a Zoom legal. And then you can get it to like the 95-yard line. I don't know how sports references work, but very, very close to the end. And then spend the last, kind of taking it home with a human lawyer just to make sure everything was done appropriately. That's probably going to be your best bet when it comes to actually getting the result that you want without spending a fortune. So I would say, somebody said good reference. So I'm hoping they meant my football reference. I wasn't confident that I did that one correctly. But like the thought is you can use technology and software to get you as close as possible. So you don't spend as much on that. That would end up being a couple $100 and then maybe a couple $100 to finalize it with a lawyer. But it could really, really help you save a lot of heartache and headache, frankly. It'll also help your kids avoid probate, which is when they have to go to the court system and like explain that they are your child and that they deserve the thing. So yeah, someone said trustandwill.com is great. There's a lot of, options that are going to allow you to do this for cheaper. Somebody asked, can ChatGPT write up a trust? Here's my thing. ChatGPT actually recently just announced that they would stop providing legal, medical, and financial advice because they kept getting sued because they were wrong. I really don't think ChatGPT is the way to go for this. If you're going to do this, I would say, leverage a certified financial planner, but especially like an estate planning attorney. But certain websites like Trust and Will help you do it in the same way, which is leaning on software, which is leaning on templates. But yeah, I don't think ChatGPT is the route to go for this. Okay. Someone asked, I have about $10,000 in debt and I'm going back to school plus working contract work. I work paycheck to paycheck, don't have enough to pay off the debt in time. Do you recommend a balance transfer on my credit card? Okay, so I worry that if you do a balance transfer, so for everybody who's listening, a balance transfer card is essentially where you take the debt on an existing credit card. So say credit card mustard. Okay, just roll with me here. All right. I gotta give you an example. Okay, so you have Mustard card. And on Mustard card, you're paying 25 to 30% APR every single year. That's a lot. You're going to be really hard to try and keep up with that. You can get a water credit card. Maybe it's a balance transfer card. For the first 12 to 18 months, you're going to pay 0% interest, but for the next, 12 to 18 months, you might be getting ahead. But at month 18, this whole thing resets and this 0% interest card becomes 25 to 30% again. So if you're already having a hard time making payments now, I don't know if a balance transfer is going to like get you 100% to where you need to be. Something that I would ask you, if possible, is there a way that you could perhaps get credit counseling? Is there perhaps a way that you could get your credit card interest rate down to a point where you would be able to comfortably pay it off and start to make a dent? Credit counseling is through nonprofit organizations, so they might be able to help you. And I would say try that before considering a balance transfer, because you do have to pay a fee on a balance transfer. And I don't want you to be in the same position asking the same question in 12 to 18 months. Amazing. Okay. People asking questions about what subjects the book's going to cover. So Well Endowed, my book, going to cover basically how it's like the 201 of finance. It's how to actually use money to build the life that you want, the richest possible life. And for most people, it's not the lime green Lamborghini or the, golden toilet or the brand new designer bag. Like a truly rich life is being able to know that your kids can sleep soundly at night. You're going to have that roof over your head. You're going to be able to retire. You're going to feel good about the safety of your life. So this book is going to cover things like, one, how do we get into this consumerism hamster wheel? How can we still afford a home and a car and to buy insurance for all of it, even when the economy feels like this? How to navigate money with a significant other, whether that's good and you're planning a wedding or whether it's bad and you're navigating a divorce. You can learn about how to set your kids up for financial success, so that they will be really, really set up for the future without turning them into dirt bags. And then how to use estate planning, things like trusts, wills, power of attorney, healthcare directives to really, leave generational wealth for your entire family tree. Unfortunately, there was no money at the top of my family tree. So I now, in the middle of my family tree, have to make the money and do the things. But hopefully, the future kids, grandkids, the roots, will be able to benefit from my hard work and my smart decision making. And I hope yours will too. But yeah, if you guys are interested in getting a copy, pre-ordering a copy, it's richbffbook.com. Please, I'm begging you, check it out, richbffbook.com. I cannot emphasize this enough. The reason why I'm asking you to pre-order is because if you pre-order, more retailers will carry it. And that'll just get this book into more hands. So important. Would really appreciate it. Grab a copy, get it for a friend. It's going to make for a great gift. It'll come out on February 3rd. So you could even get it as a Valentine's Day gift if you want to talk about money with your spouse, and just bring it up that way. It's available on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles, Target, wherever you get books. So richbffbook.com, grab a copy. Or if you're on Instagram, you can just write Well Endowed or Book 2 in the chat, and you'll be able to get a URL sent straight to you. Question: what are 3 things that you know now that you wish you knew when you were 26? Quick side note, someone asked, is there an audiobook? Yes, there will be an audiobook for Well Endowed. What are 3 things that I know now that I wish I knew when I was 26? I think I actually want to go a little bit further than that. Like, I wish I knew how important it was to not settle for less when it came to a partner. I can't emphasize this enough, but your significant other, the person you choose to spend your life with, is the largest financial decision you will make, because they will be the people that they will be the person who has to navigate you through the death of your parents, the birth of your children, and spend the most time with you throughout your entire lifetime. And some of y'all got haters at home. Like, I know friends that have partners who are so nasty and such losers. Not that they're like not successful, but like they refuse to acknowledge my friend's success. And I think it just frustrates me because I feel like the person you go home to every night should think the sun shines out of your butt. Whether or not it actually does, whether it's your worst day or your best day, they should be your number one cheerleader. And statistics have actually shown that having a conscientious partner allows you to make 4% more every single year. So imagine a 4% raise every single year of your life. That is how much you would make more than someone who has like a shitty partner. So pick a good boo. I can't stress that enough. Like, my husband is my number one fan. He is probably watching it, lurking on this live, just to see what I'm saying. And like, he loves it. Another thing I would say is, you know, this is I think is a Morgan Housel classic, but like, don't spend money you don't have to buy stuff you don't need to impress people you don't even like. I wanted to be a cool girl so bad, and I was just never going to be, and that's fine. Being cool is overrated. The girls that I wanted to be my friend, when I got the designer bag, when I finally got that whatever, when I finally got the shoes, when I finally got the jewelry, they didn't care. And honestly, the people who saw me when I was living in an apartment that had black mold, you know, wearing $2 shoes from Forever 21 and had $4 to my name, those were the same girls that were at my wedding. And a lot of my success, I think, I actually credit to them because they were the ones who would drive me to my interview. They were the ones who would prep me on the questions the night before. They were the ones that supported me when I didn't have a significant other. My family was hundreds of thousands of miles away. They were my chosen family. So like, pick wisely, pick good friends, like friends that actually cheer for you. I would also say, start talking about money earlier. I feel like most people don't actually talk. Actually, the stat is 50% of couples don't talk about money until they're already engaged. I think we should be talking about money with our friends. I think we should be talking about money with our partners. I think we should be talking about money with everybody. And the reason for that is, if you do, you have more knowledge, you have more information. The greatest move that I made in my career was when I straight up told my coworker how much I was making. And this was like my closest coworker friend. She was like, okay, well, this is what I'm making, so you should ask for that. I went into my negotiation meeting and I was like, this is how much I want. And I got it. And then you know what I did? I turned right back around. I grabbed her and I dragged her into the bathroom. And I said, I just got this raise. You're 5 years older than me. You should ask for more then. And you know what she did? She went and asked for more. Both of us got raises that year. Both of us walked away feeling good. And, you know, I think like that is just really a semblance of like how having information is powerful, how having knowledge is powerful. And how when we talk to each other, the people at the top, the corporations, they actually do worse and we do better. So I would just say, talk about money. It's so simple, but it really, really is important. I'm looking at some of these questions. A lot of you are just like agreeing. I love that. Ooh, sorry, guys. That was a great reminder that I need to be on this live because my producer is begging me to talk about this book. And so is my publisher. Well Endowed, my next book. This is my baby. If you read my first book, Rich AF, I promise you're going to love this one even more because that was 101. This is 201. Well Endowed is all about using money to build the life you want. If you want to learn a little bit more about it, richbffbook.com. Or if you're on Instagram, you can just comment Wellendowed and I'll send you a link. So please just comment Wellendowed in the chat. If you're on YouTube or on TikTok, richbffbook.com, check it out. The live will be kept up. Somebody asked me, this is a really interesting one, and I talk about this in my book too when it comes to relationships and money and how to navigate this. Yes, it is at Barnes & Noble's. You can pre-order it at barnesandnobles.com. This person asked, wondering, is it too hard to find true friends after you become successful? Curious if you found new deep friendships in the last few years. It is still possible to make friends. I don't want to lie to you. It's harder. The person that I immediately think of is my friend David Suh. If you've watched a lot of my content, you've probably seen him. He is this incredible photographer. You can find him, David Suh Photography. Or is it David Suh Photo? I don't know. He's saved. I just look up David Suh. But I see him every time that I go to LA. But we met at a very vulnerable time. We were both at this one event, and it was a very exclusive event, and they didn't allow +1s. So we had to go alone. And I showed up alone, and he showed up alone. And I was like, well, you're my date for the night. And he was like, who are you? And I was like, you're going to be my best friend. And he was like, who are you? But ultimately, that turned into a real friendship. I think the problem is in other instances where I've tried to foster friendships, people have ended up wanting stuff from me, whether it's, oh, I want Viv to post about me on her stories, or I want, to use me. So I think it's really, really about, does this person actually fuel you? Are they genuinely in it for the friendship, or are they just trying to get something out of you? But it's harder. I have a harder time trusting people. And I will say it makes me value my same friendships from 10 years ago that much more, because they've seen me after a frat party. They've seen me not doing good. They've seen me the morning before graduation where I was, down horrific. And we laugh about those moments because all of those people are still in my life today, and they were my bridesmaids at my wedding, and I'm never going to give that up. What's the line? It's I still got the same 5 friends with me. Let's see. Ooh, this is a topic that I talk about in my book, Well Endowed. You can get it at richbffbook.com. How do you balance talking about money while setting boundaries? Okay. If you, like me, are a child of immigrants, you have probably been told that you are your parents' retirement strategy. Great. If you are like me, you may have had a weird uncle ask you for a small business loan that you and I both know is going straight to the casino. If you are like me, you are the person in your family that made it big and is now kind of expected, to take care of stuff. And I think what I always say is that you can't build the foundation of your home on sand. You have to build it on cement. So it's really important to set boundaries of what you are and are not willing to do. So I always say, we never loan, we only gift. I always say, there is no such thing as I'll pay you back. They won't. If you give money to family, you're not getting it back. Do not think you're getting it back. Don't even wait for it back. You can allocate a portion of your money as a healthy budget to gift your family every single year. But once that well has run dry for the year, it's done. It's done. You got to wait till the next calendar year. Put the timer on, because it is not up to you to sponsor all of their shenanigans. I think they mean well, but the goal is not for them to drag you back down with them. The goal is for you to get so high you can actually drop the rope down. And they're going to have to pull themselves up. So I think it's saying, hey, I'm happy to give this much. If they continue to ask for gifts, maybe have it be a certain number of times and then be done. Or be like, hey, instead of money, let me teach you something. Let me help you set something up so that you can then help yourself. But I do talk about this in my book, Well Endowed. My first book, Rich AF, was all about the basics, budgeting, saving, things like that. This book is all about how to use money to build your richest life, how to buy a car, buy a home, get insurance that is not a scam, and use it to build protection in your life. How to navigate money with a partner, and not just like a partner in relationship, but like your family, your friends, setting boundaries, in good and bad. So marriages and divorces, how to set your relationships up for success when it comes to finances, how to set your kids up for the future, so that they are financially stable, and not dirt bags. Make sure that their education's paid for, but maybe we're not handing them life on a silver platter. And then how to use estate planning to actually build generational wealth for your family tree. It comes out February 3rd. But what I ask is that if you are able to right now, and I know people's financial situations are not all sunshine and rainbows right now, but if you are in a position to, and you are planning on buying this book anyway, please pre-order it. This is going to help me get this book into more retailers. It's currently being sold at Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Walmart, Target, but to get the indies to hold it on their shelves, we need pre-order numbers. So richbffbook.com, please go grab a copy. If you're on Instagram, if you just type Well Endowed in the chat, I'll send you a URL. This is going to help so many families. If you thought my first book was good, you're going to love this one. And it's going to really get your finances in a great spot. And if you have any upcoming people who who are getting married, or people who are having children, or people who are starting a new financial journey, this book is going to be a great gift. And I really hope that so many people read it, because similar to my first book, it's going to have checklists and to-dos. So you can pre-order it on Amazon, pre-order it on Barnes and Nobles, wherever you pre-order. But it's going to be really, really helpful. Someone said, when you said Well Endowed is like 201 and for creating the lifestyle you want, would you say it's geared towards people with a certain amount invested? No, because this is going to help you navigate, I would say, more of a timeline versus like a number. Rich AF was all about like taking care of you, but life doesn't work in a perfect linear fashion. Like, you may not have a lot invested, but you may need to have that relationship money conversation last week because you just popped the question, or maybe you're already married, or maybe you want to ask for a post-nup. So this is going to be really helpful, I think, for a lot of people. Oh my gosh, someone gave me a life update and said that they're super close to closing on their first home, a condo with their wife. I'm so proud of you. Yes, if you cannot financially get a copy, please beg your library to pre-order a bunch of these copies. I know for my first book, libraries were having lists of 50 people waiting to get their one copy. So please ask your library to get a copy if you cannot personally get one. Let me try and find some good questions. Guys, what are other questions? Ooh. Yes. So I am a huge fan of a prenup. And if you didn't get a prenup, a postnup. So I have a prenup. I'll tell you what's in mine. How about that? So me and Boo, we have a prenup because when we first started dating, by the way, this is so funny because we met in the basement of a dive bar and everyone's like, how did you guys meet? Was it romantic? No, the floors were sticky. But I met my husband in the basement of a dive bar. He was on the same team as my girl roommate at the time, and she and I were friends. So I like met him through her. And we hit it off. And at the time, he was making probably twice as much as I was. And then the second year, he was making twice as much as I was. And then the third year, he was making like 3 times as much. And at one point, he was making almost 4 times as much as I was at the time. And one green flag, I knew he never ever made me feel less than for making less than. He always made me feel like we were equal partners. He was never weird with money. He was always so generous. He never nickel and dimed me. Like I see some couples Venmoing each other for light bulbs, and I'm like, yo, it cannot possibly be that deep right now. Like you guys have been together for 6 years. So we set up our prenup in a very specific way that we would be 50-50 partners in everything we brought into the relationship. The reason we did this was because when we bought our home, I put 6 figures more into our home. But the only reason I was able to do that is because for the first like 5 years of our relationship, he paid for all the dinners, he paid for the vacations, he paid to, for the Valentine's gifts and like the really nice things that like he always was so kind and thoughtful with money, but he was the spender and I just stocked my money away. And because I had more saved, I put more money into our home, and that was not equal. But I wanted the home to be equal because he had taken care of so much for the first 5 years. And then after we get married, all of the income that we make would be 50-50. But the equity in my business, the ownership of my business would be carved out. So like, for example, if my business made $100,000 and we were married, he would be entitled to $50,000 of that. But if something were to happen and we were to split, he could not then go forward and be like, well, you owe me 50% of your earnings for the rest of this business. Like, no, I don't want that. I want to have a clear cut. So I think it's important to know what you want out of that relationship. We were both high earners. We were both, really career motivated. We don't have any children yet, but I think our relationships can change over time. And say my husband in 10 years starts a business, we might have to, amend it. And certainly there are going to be more provisions once children are in the picture. But we have a prenup. I think if you didn't get a prenup with your partner, especially if things have changed financially, it might be a good time to explore having a postnup, just because that's going to help set you up for financial success in the future. And you just never know these days. I just think it's important to have the conversation. All right. One last push, friends. I'm so sorry if you've been here the whole time and I've said this 8 times. My publisher loves this. Guys, my book, Well Endowed, book number 2, second is the best. Well Endowed is coming out February 3rd. And you can pre-order it now at richbffbook.com. You're going to learn so much from this book. It's going to teach you how to get the right insurance policies, because everybody knows insurance is this big thing that the financial gurus all talk about. So you can learn about insurance. You can learn about buying a home, even in this in economy, buying a car, how to navigate money with a partner in your other relationships, like your family or your friends, and how to set your kids up for financial success. You can get it on Amazon. Someone just asked. But how to set your kids up for financial success, pay for college, pay for their futures, and also prevent them from turning out as dirtbags. And then, the last part that's the most important is how to use estate planning. So power of attorney, trusts, wills, healthcare directives, to actually build generational wealth and leave behind your legacy. If you want a copy, richbffbook.com, or if you're on Instagram, you can actually write in the chat, just Well Endowed, the title of the book, Well Endowed. And I will send you a link via DM of where you can get a copy. But pre-ordering is so helpful for me because it helps independent bookstores get this book on the shelves. If they don't see enough demand in the pre-order, they don't hold it, and then people can't get it. There are audiobooks, ebooks, hardcover books. Somebody said they pre-ordered my first book and never got it. I don't know which retailer you bought it from, but I would go complain because we actually don't fulfill this. You can get Well Endowed from Amazon, from Walmart, Target, Barnes and Noble, an independent bookstore. If you actually go to richbffbook.com, you can even get a signed copy. I work with an independent bookstore in Miami, where I live. It's called Books and Books, and it's family owned. They have like the cutest little store, and I go and sign all the copies. So if you want a signed copy, richbffbook.com, please check it out. Yes, a pre-order can come from Books and Books. They're an independent bookstore in Miami, and they'll mail it to you, and it'll be signed. So just check out richbffbook.com, or if you're on IG, just type Well Endowed in the chat. In your book, are there resources to do the things you recommend? Who would I be if I did not write a book with checklists and to-do lists? Because I don't want you to read this book. I want you to work through this book. It is a workbook. You will have to-do lists. I want you to read the chapter and then do the thing. You cannot keep reading. Do not pass go until you've done the thing. There's going to be links. There's going to be calculators. So it'll be like, oh, you're planning your estate plan. Like, what are things that you need to have on hand and decisions you have personally made before you talk to a lawyer? Also, my producer is rapidly texting me right now being like, hey, but tell everyone that the workbooks on Amazon are fake. You have to buy Well Endowed by Vivian too. Do not buy a book if it's by another author that says it's by me. Just, trust me. Someone asked for the signed copies, what bookstore again? It's Books and Books, but just search richbffbook.com and it'll take you to the signed copies. You'll see them at the bottom. And I will be doing signings and a book tour. But yes, you will have links, you will have resources. I'm actually building out calculators and lists and tools for you guys as well. So then you will actually be able to utilize the knowledge you get, because it's not just enough to read. And on that note, I want to say thank you to everyone who has joined me for almost the past hour. I do need to get going because I need to wrap up and head to the University of Chicago. I'm giving a speech tonight at my old alma mater to the Women in Business. It's a student organization. And then I'm speaking tomorrow at the Grace Hopper celebration in Chicago. It's a nonprofit, supports women in tech. But thank you guys so much for joining me. Please grab a copy of Well Endowed. Richbffbook.com is the URL. And you can just sign and write Well Endowed if you're on Instagram in the chat, or even just DM me Well Endowed and I'll send you the URL to get it. But I'm so grateful for you guys. Thank you for joining me, and I'll be back hopefully next week to do another live and we'll answer more questions. Love you. Bye guys. Oh no. How do I end it? Okay, bye guys.